first responder, they put their lives online, and all those guys, they put their lives on online also. What's the price for putting your life online to protect others? So God bless them. We pray for them, and give them one more hand. And I'll introduce Agent Fred Simon.
Thank you. Thanks very much, and good evening. I thank you all for coming here today and for hosting us. We at the FBI think it's incredibly important to get training like this out. When I first met with Bilal a few months ago, I said that we would be willing, the FBI would be willing to help facilitate training on any topic. I said it could be cybersecurity, it could be active shooter, it could be homegrown violent extremism, it could be human trafficking, it could be drones, all different types of training that the FBI produces and provides for free. And the first thing that he said is that we are the same as any other faith-based community. We'd like to have training in active shooter. And then therefore I said, okay, if you just set it up, we'll come and we'll come and do it. And he already scheduled one last month at his place of business in Anaheim. And then some of the folks from this center here asked for us to do it here next. So thank you very much for welcoming us and bringing us into your space. I will tell you right now that as an FBI agent with this division that we have here, it's the Los Angeles division, but we cover Orange County as well. I am dedicated to do everything that I can within my power to help keep the community safe. So you can come to me and say you'd like to bring this same training to your places of business or to where you go to school or anything else, and I would help facilitate that as well. I know that you gave us a hand. I'm grateful for that, and to the police department and fire department, but I'd also like you to give a hand to Bilal Dilati for helping facilitate this. He is truly concerned with the safety and security of all Americans, and of course including Muslim Americans. So I kudos to you. My hat is off to you for being willing to participate in this. And the topic that we're going to talk about tonight is not a fun topic. It's not a good topic. It's not a happy topic. So I will caution you ahead of time. Like when you go to see a horror movie or something, people tell you this is a scary topic. This is not a fun topic. Okay, so from time to time when I give this class, sometimes I'll put in a little bit of levity and tell a couple of jokes, but that's just because it's such a heavy topic that it's a little bit easier to consume if someone has some levity included. I often give this presentation myself, but usually when I go to any given city and offer these kind of training, I ask the local police and fire if they would like to participate. I give them the first offer because God forbid something happens and you call 911, it's not going to be me showing up in my nice suit. Okay, it's going to be police dressed like this gentleman here and fire just like this gentleman dressed here. So since they're the ones who are going to be responding, they're the ones who are going to give the presentation. But I came to just kick it off and to tell you that as the FBI and as this law enforcement agency and the fire department, we are dedicated 100%. And this is, by the way, on their own time. This is off-duty hours for both of them that they come to do this. And when I asked them to do this, there was no hesitation, there was no problem, there was no resistance whatsoever. They're very committed, and I'm very grateful to them for coming today to do this. I've known Nick Freeman for a couple of years, but I only met Sergeant Lazardi last week. The first time we saw each other in person was in the parking lot here. And yet, just by asking him, he was willing to do this. So I'm very grateful to both of them for giving up their Friday nights, and I'm grateful for you to be willing to stick around and watch. You're going to learn. You're going to learn a lot tonight. Ask questions. This is a horrible thing that's going on in the world. And by the way, let me just mention that I'm hoping that the next hour or two is just a waste of time for all of us, because we're hoping that nothing ever happens and you never need any of this, right? Just like car insurance. You get car insurance and you hope to never have an accident. And this is kind of an insurance policy of time that you're investing, and we're hoping that you'll never need it. But in the event that you ever do need it, you'll have a couple of tips and tricks and things you could do to keep yourself safe, yourself and your loved ones. Anyway, again, thank you very much for having us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm going to stick around for the duration. You can come up to me and ask me anything. But right now, I would like to introduce Sergeant Lazardi from the Santa Ana Police Department. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. If you need it, let me know. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for having me. Just a little background of myself. I have 23 years in law enforcement. I started with Riverside. I just hit my 20 years with Santa Ana. So I just hit 20 years with the city of Santa Ana. With that, thank you. I do, I've worked a lot of assignments. The last 17 years have been involved on our SWAT team. Been a SWAT member, but currently I'm a team leader on our SWAT team, and I teach active shooter. I've been teaching active shooter now for about almost 13 years. Not just people like for you guys and the community, but also for our officers, fire department, and so forth. So that's just a little background on myself. I am very passionate about this subject matter. Before the term active shooter, the name came about, which would be in 1999. In 98, I was involved in an incident that was classified as an active shooter in my old agency, where the mayor and council members were shot, and I happened to be on scene while this was going on. So it hits home to me personally because I've experienced it early in my career. So once again, it gives me the, in addition to just being in law enforcement as a trainer, but the passion for this. So thank you again. This is about a two-hour presentation, so you're going to get about 45 minutes. I'm not going to shortchange you, I promise you. But there are some slides that I'm just going to kind of skip over just so that I could get to the meats and potatoes, right? All right, good. So with that, some of the statistics, I'll just glance past it. Like with anything else, you need to understand what is active shooter versus a shooting. We're all here in Santa Ana. I work Santa Ana. I've been working Santa Ana for 20 years. Not that long ago, we averaged 1.1, almost 1.2 shootings a day in the city. That doesn't mean it was an active shooter or murders, but it could have been murders. It could have been homicides. So there's a lot of shootings that occur, but what's the difference between just a shooting, domestic, gang-related, a robbery, versus an active shooter? So it's important for you to understand and know what we're dealing with, right? So by definition, it is when an individual is actively engaged in the killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. There is no pattern or method to their selection of victims. These situations are very scary because they're unpredictable and they evolve very quickly. And we say typically the deployment of law enforcement is required to stop the shooting or mitigate harms to victims. However, what we're seeing now more and more, especially with presentations like what we're doing now, that even before law enforcement gets here, it's you guys, it's those victims, those people involved, and that's why we're here, and that's why it's important, because waiting for law enforcement now has been trained. You're very fortunate with the training that we have, especially here in this city and in the county and working with the fire department, that we're able to have a very quick response. Our officers are well trained, and we hope that if ever an incident like this ever was to happen, that they're able to respond the way they're trained, right? That's what we expect from them. But there's still gonna be a delay. There's still gonna be a little bit of time, right? Even if I'm in the parking lot and something happens inside here, there's still gonna be some time before I get from the parking lot inside. Not knowing the area, not knowing the structure, where it's at, it's gonna even take a little bit longer. So it's important for you to understand that. That's why we're here, and that's why we wanna focus on this. So with that, like with anything, it's very important that because these situations are often sometimes over before even law enforcement gets here, you need to be very much prepared mentally and physically. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by being mentally prepared? What I mean is you have to, there's a saying that when an emergency, when the crap hits the fan, you guys heard that saying, when the crap hits the fan, I'll rise to the occasion, right? Some people, especially probably the men, some of you ladies too, but mostly men feel this way, like, when things go really bad, I'm gonna rise to the occasion. I feel good, I've done it before. We don't rise to the occasion. We rise to our level of training. So if you've never been trained before, you've never been able to process that or at least talked about it, you can't expect that outcome. Does that make sense? So you need to be mentally prepared. Prepared means this presentation, and beyond that, we'll have some, Fred had brought up some signs with the FBI, which is really nice. You'll see that you'll have them, a reminder. Those are very good things. That keeps you mentally, get that mindset, that the continuous thought process of it, right? And then physically, and I don't mean physically like you have to go out and start lifting weights, or you have to start running, right? Although it's important, it's good to stay physical, but I would ask some of you, especially sometimes the elder, or even those that have some handicap issues. When I say physical, if I was to say, from this point on, would you ever consider jumping over a table, climbing over a table? You'd probably tell me never. There's absolutely no reason. There's no way I'm going to climb over a table, so I don't even have to think about that. I don't even have to worry about it, because that's never going to happen, or at least I think that wouldn't happen, right? So there's no need. However, situations like this, you may have to. So when I say physically, you may have to get your mind straight so that you could physically get over a table, get over a hurdle, or crawl, or whatever it takes. Does that make sense? So that's what I mean by that, is having that mental preparedness and that physicalness involved in that, okay? It will perhaps require you to that, because your heart rate's going to be going, your adrenaline is going to be up, so you're going to have to require some physicalness in that. So to completely avoid it, we'd be doing ourselves a disservice. So it's important to be aware of that. Some of the goals, so without getting too into details, because I could really bring up this a lot of the stuff that we'll get into, but when we talk about everybody first wants to know, well, what do we do? We'll get into what we'll do, what happens. But like before anything else, I could be the best MMA street fighter. I could be the best SWAT operator, right? Or maybe special forces. And I could have the best techniques on how to clear this structure, clear the room with my SWAT team. And I could be very, very proficient. But even the best in the world is going to take longer, or they're going to have potential issues than somebody who would just completely avoid it. If you could avoid a situation, you're much better off than even the best in the world who's going to have to face with it. Would you not agree? Right? So you get some, thank you. You think about a road rage, you think about driving, and you get into a road rage, right? Well, if we continue to stay within that road rage mentality, things could go wrong. But the moment one of us removes ourselves from that situation, we could eliminate the potential outcome of that. So with this, it's important to understand that there's a lot of stuff we can do to before even being involved, and that's that prevention. And what I mean by prevention, we're not necessarily talking about that, it's 100%. Okay, we'll get into the mitigations, just lowering the risk. I'll get into the situational awareness, the mindset, because that's what's very important. That is probably the most important thing. When we touch on it, I'll make sure that you really think about these things. But avoiding them, protecting that constant vigilance, dedication. Everybody here should be basically like a security guard, should be like a staff member, should be a lead role. Everybody should have that mentality. If you're in the parking lot, if you're inside, wherever you're at, everybody. We call them, safety officers, security monitors, whatever you want to be, everybody should be. If everybody, imagine that. I just increased my staff by having all you, just by being vigilant, just by being mindful, aware, and then reporting some of the stuff, okay? So we tend to forget about that stuff and only rely on the leaders or the security. They'll handle it. There's only one or two. We need your help. We need everybody's help. So it's important to be mindful of that. And then when we talk about mitigation, nothing's 100%. All we're trying to do is just lessen the loss of life and property, okay? And there's a lot of techniques, a lot of tools that that you can do for that. Responding to them, this quick response, it's not just a quick response from law enforcement. We're trained to be quickly and respond. The fire department is trained to be quick to respond to an incident like this, but it goes even beyond that. We talk about responding to an active shooter, but now we have, issues with technology, okay, with computer, with IT stuff. Are you quick to respond? Do you have we have our first responders here, right? We're responding to them, but do you have a quick response to something that all of a sudden your systems get hacked, you have other issues, you have, mental health, psychological. Do you have a quick response for that? So we should be thinking about those things. And then, of course, the recovery overall. So some of the tips real quick, without getting, again, too much into this with the risk assessment and so forth, it's important, like with identify, there's a lot of stuff that we can do. You could reach out. I know Fred's very familiar with them. He conducts them. But these things, before anything, it's you start talking about what we're going to do. If we could assess our structure, our layout, our floor plans, and we can do stuff to prevent it, that's what's going to help us here. So, yes, sir.
And I just want to let you know that for places in Orange County, there's an intelligence center that provides that risk assessment where they literally walk the grounds here at the mosque or in your place of business, and they tell you where you may be vulnerable. You may consider doing some adjustments here and there.
And the Homeland Security was a Guardian Group Mosque today doing that.
Yeah.
They can come here and do this. Just remember we talked about leaving exits open and all that stuff. That's very necessary.
Let us know. We can have that. We can facilitate that as well.
Cool. Thank you. If you're going to get one thing out of this class that you're really going to really remember, I'm going to tell you right now, it's this word right here with situational awareness, okay? Situational awareness, not just for an active shooter, but every day, day-to-day stuff. What do I mean by situational awareness? I mean being aware, mindful of your surroundings, okay? I have 2 kids. I constantly talk about that to my little ones as from the time that they could pretty much talk. I talk about just being mindful of them, being aware of what's going on around you, being aware whether you're out in public, whether you're here. You should be mindful. You should not be so fixated on your cell phone through a conversation or something. Now, do we get that way? Absolutely. We're human. We're going to get into it. That's okay. But if you could stop and think about the fact that, hey, I just got caught up in a moment. I should be aware of what's going on around me. That's going to be so critical, okay? Because if I'm pulling into a gas station and I'm going to put gas and I don't look through the glass and I don't see that there's a robbery occurring, the teller's got the hands up and maybe somebody has got a gun to their, right? If I don't have situation awareness, I just in a habit on my phone, I walk in, and the moment I walk into that convenience store or inside the gas station, all of a sudden, I'm going to get caught up, and now all of a sudden, I'm going to be a victim of that robbery. Okay, you too, get on the ground. But if I would have just had that situational awareness, just being mindful, looked up and saw that doesn't look right, I would have pulled out, made a phone call, got in my car and left. I avoided it. I just avoided it just by simply just being aware of what's happening around me. But we don't tend to do that, especially with cell phones nowadays. We become zombies. Everybody's doing one of these. My daughter's 14 years old. We were at a red light the other day, and she goes, Dad, look at this guy. There's a guy crossing the street, major intersection. He's on his cell phone, and she's like, clueless. He's just clueless. This is what she tells me, because he's just doing one of these, even though he's got the crosswalk, even though he's got the green light, it's okay. But he should be aware of his surroundings. All of a sudden, he sees a car that's losing control. He could move out of the way to avoid getting hit. Little things like that could save your life. So before anything, just being mindful of it is very important. Oops. I got stuck. Uh-oh, sorry. Got stuck here. I apologize. I think I just minimize. Oh, tap it. So, by what I mean by that situational awareness, right? I'll give an example. What's your name, sir? Alan? Alan. Alan's sitting close to me, so guess what? You're my guy, right? So Alan over here, in terms of how the mindset works, right? Alan over here doesn't realize this, but if I wanted to slap Alan in the face, I'm not going to slap you, so don't worry about it. But if I wanted to slap Alan in the face, if he stood up, go ahead.
His wife said slap him.
Yes, I could slap him before he could react, right? Typically. If he doesn't know it's coming, I'm going to hit him. Why? Because the brain has to respond to an action. Has to first see that there's a hand coming across before you can go, hey, what do I know about that? Sends it to the back of the brain, and then the muscles protect themselves. So every time I will hit him. It's a physiological fact. Unless he cheats it, he anticipates it, or he sees something there, right? So he could know that, but if the first time I do it, the second time he gets hit. Now it's the third time, and I come in, and I come stand next to him. He's gonna be a lot more careful, right? He's gonna say, oh, this Oscar guy, I don't like this guy. He hits me every time. He's gonna be mindful of where my hand's at, right? The moment I pull out the hand, the moment I do this, he already knows I typically get hit. So now when I do want to hit him, guess what he's gonna do? He's gonna flinch, he's gonna back up, or he's gonna stop me. He no longer just got slapped. Because he was situationally aware of what I was doing, and because he was mindful, and through experience, he could learn that, okay? So again, there's ways where we're able to prevent ourselves from becoming a victim, because you see, in the first time, okay, fine. But if I'm aware of it, you're not gonna get me. And that's what I mean by that, right? So, oops. There we go. How many of you know where your exits are at right now? Okay. How many exits? Everybody keeps pointing at that same door, right? Coming in. See? Hey, I'm glad you do that, because everybody looks at where they came in from. Yes. So the other day I was doing a presentation at the Sheraton. There was like 200 and something people there. There was tables all across, a lot. Everybody came in from my right side, and they signed in. So everybody came in from there. So this whole section right here was seated. And I said, how many of you know with your exits, if there was to be a fire or a shooter or something right now that you needed to run out? And I said, be honest. This whole group that was right here, they were honest, and they said they would have ran out towards where they came in from. They had a door real close to them. As soon as they looked over, they had exit door right there. But because they didn't look at it and they weren't aware of it, it's a natural thing for an emergency to happen that you're not gonna think, you're gonna think of where you last came in from, and the mind's gonna go right back to where, same place. And for what? Everyone's gonna get bottled up. You have different options over here. You're closest to, there's an exit right there. So all you guys could have ran out this way. But I guarantee you, if I were to start pulling the trigger and shots, you probably all would have run out that way. It's a natural thing. So how do we avoid that? How do we help ourselves? Awareness, right? Go to a movie that you take a look. All you have to do is visually, and then now you could visually see yourself exiting that way. So that the hope is that if an emergency happens, the brain will automatically kick in, and you have an idea. You've pre-programmed yourself, okay? So again, very important for you to know the, Jesus, I can't. I'm sorry. Oh, shoot. Is that it? Okay. So in addition to, so I know what the next light's gonna be. So be mindful of that. Don't volunteer to, your cell phones. I talk about those things. So now, as he's putting this on, we want to address now, okay, the $1 million question, right? All right, so now we have somebody who, we're being situationally aware, we're being mindful, perhaps we've done our risk assessment, we've done everything we could possibly do to keep ourselves safe. Everybody's a monitor, we do everything. I'm here to tell you that even with doing all that, there's still a probability, unfortunately, right? We have to recognize that. So now we find ourselves in that situation. Here's an example what I'll give is, and I know that there's kids in the room, but I'll try to keep it as clean, but it's real issues. So if I came in with the gun, not in uniform, but obviously as a bad guy, I came in here with the gun, and I tell everybody, freeze, hold, and put the gun up. Everybody, let me see your hands. Everybody's typically going to comply, right? Hopefully, probably, okay. Why do we initially comply? Why do we put our hands up and listen? Yeah. And if you're being robbed or anything, what do we tell you? If somebody comes up with a gun and tries to rob you, what do we say? Cooperate. Why?
Years ago,
Well, that's scary.
Oh, yes, because I'm in the gas station business.
Wow, yeah.
And it happened a few years ago, and the guy, he came in and armed robbery my gas stations, and then he aimed a gun at me, and he took whatever he took, and while he's running away, he aimed, and thank God, he missed. And so I fixed it.
You're very lucky. You're very lucky.
Yeah,
So,
but I cooperated.
but you cooperated. Okay, so that's a good point. I'm glad you bring that up. So what's your name, sir? Ahmed. Thank you very much for sharing that story. That's a very true story. So we typically in law enforcement say, hey, cooperate. Cooperate because what does the bad guy, the robber, want when he goes into that liquor store community? Typically, money, right? Money, your wallet, your keys, your car, your purse, whatever it may be, right? So therefore, if you comply statistically on a national level, when you comply on a robbery, you have a better likelihood of not being injured or hurt. So we're going to go with the odds. Statistically, that's a better chance, so therefore comply, right? So I come in here, I have a gun to everybody. And I tell everybody, and I line everybody up. Everybody get on the wall. And everybody gets on the wall, right? So everybody's complying initially. If I start off from my left, say from right here, and the moment everybody's got their hands up, I come up and I start pulling the trigger. One by one, boom, boom. And I start going down the line. One of three things is going to naturally happen. As I do this, some of you are going to see an opportunity to then just run, either run through your exits, maybe even run past me and hope that I miss, okay? That's what could happen. Others are going to completely lose the will. Maybe you're just going to drop to your knees, put your hands on your face, and cry and pray that nothing happens. You'll freeze, you won't do anything. Okay? As I move closer to this one, what's your name, sir? Cappy. Cappy has seen what happened. Cappy's probably going to grab onto my gun and is going to struggle with it, and we're going to fight for it. Why is he doing that? Why are you running? Why are you losing the fear where only seconds before you weren't doing that? I'm sorry? Because it's closer, but because because I started with the shooting, correct? You know the end result. So initially everybody's doing this. But the moment I start doing this is when all of a sudden people start reacting. So if I come in and you already know that I'm going to come up and do this. So by the time you realize this is happening, I may have shot 3 or 4 people before I get to you, right? And maybe, hopefully, you grab onto my gun, you don't just drop to your knees and cover your face and so forth. If you get the mindset to where you understand that by the time I get here, you already know what's going to happen, would you just stand there like this? No. You would probably going to do one of those things, right? Either going to try to run past me or try to get the gun from me. Correct? So, get right down to it. So, go one more, please. Yeah, sorry. We talked about the cell phones here, just for the sake of. So as this is warming up, so the first thing, what we want you to be mindful is that in this situation, when you believe there's an active shooter, like how I was doing it, I became active. By the time I started pulling the trigger, I became active, right? I wasn't active before that, even though I had the gun and I was doing this. But when the moment I started pulling the trigger is when it started. Everybody agree to that? So therefore, by that time, we say, hey, look, you have an opportunity. If you are around that area and you know you're getting close, you're within that proximity, we want you to be able to just run. No need to look and realize and see and try to identify. Just get out, run. Just like that group at the end, they didn't ask questions. They didn't look. They weren't trying to be nosy. They just got their stuff and they got out. Right? That's what you're going to do. So that's the same concept. That's what we want you to already think about. Hey, you hear something, don't even bother and look. However, just keep this in mind that you perhaps could be in a safer place than that if you stayed put than if you were to just run. So just to run, you may be running to a more dangerous situation. Does that make sense? So it's very difficult. So this group right here these people that knew what was happening, very appropriate for them to run. But perhaps you guys were in certain rooms or something. Yeah, if you had an exit, you can get out if it's safe. Maybe you're in a second floor, maybe you're in down the hallway, you can't get through an exit. So maybe you don't have that luxury. You cannot run. And when I say run, even though you could run past me, keep this in mind that moving targets are very difficult. People say, well, if I run, I could run past the shooter and I could get shot. How many of you ever gone shooting before? Anybody gone shooting recreational? Is it easy to shoot a gun? No, it's not easy. It's not like the movies. If I was to put the shooter, have you shoot and put a target, to say, hit the square. From right here, you'd go, 5 shots, boom, missed, and everyone's like, come on. You keep shooting, you may hit 2 or 3. But the moment I start moving the slides, kind of like the screensaver slowly, all of a sudden, those 2 or 3 that you hit, you're missing. Now imagine if you're moving too. It's very difficult. So therefore, you have to understand that even though there's somebody close to you, by moving, they could miss, or their mind is not thinking of you. I'm focused on other things. So you have an opportunity to even bypass them. So again, understanding that, hey, running, the first thing you want to do is you just get out of it, avoid it. Did you have a question?
Oh, I was gonna say it's because a lot of the times movies make it look like it's all about kind of like where you're lining up, even though it's untrue. You could take the most lined up shot, and even then, statistically, you miss your target by at least 5 inches.
Oh yeah, it is 100%. It's not easy. So it's not going to be easy for the bad guy. They're going to experience their adrenaline. They're going to experience the same things that we do. You're going to lose your hearing. You're going to be your sight. You're going to be looking like through like a straw. That's how much you're not going to see what's around you. Your adrenaline is going to be so up. So, but same with the bad guy, right? So the more we're aware of it, then that's okay. Let him get fixated. We could bypass without maybe even knowing. But that has to be an understanding that you have to already develop in your head. That it's okay, that you don't want to just hit the ground. It may seem like the right thing to do and a smart thing to do. If I started pulling the trigger on a gun, I guarantee you if everybody was standing, a lot of you would just drop. You hit the ground. You see it all the time. Hide under the table, you hit the ground. It's important that may be a good idea at first, but you want to get out. You want to be able to get out and be aware of it. So even though that may seem like a good idea at the time to just drop and hit the deck, yes, but as soon as you recognize and you get your vision and realize what it is, you want to be able to run and remove yourself from that situation. Just like the road rage, we were talking about it, right? If you remove yourself, so we want to get away from it. So what happens if you can't run and you can't get away? What happens if you're in an office, you're in a room, and the shooting's happening, that you look and it's too unsafe to you to run out? Absolutely. Lock the door, barricade yourself, close it, secure yourself there, right? Get yourself in a position to make it very difficult for that person to come in. Turn the lights off, turn off the music, turn off the sound. Give the appearance that nobody's home. Give that impression, because these things happen, they only last minutes. They also know that police are coming. So their adrenaline is going. They know that the police are coming, so they only have so much time, right? So I don't want to spend too much time dealing with this door and lock. I'm going to go to something else. Okay? That's what we're hoping for. That's what we want. And if you give the impression, in a lot of the trainings that we do, we put areas where it looks like nobody's home, and over here with the lights and the sound, and we put the bad guys, which would be, say, somebody like you guys, to volunteer. We watch you, and we watch that you go to where the sound, and we ask you, why'd you go over there? Half the time you don't even know why, or maybe you say, because I heard something, because I saw light. And it's natural. It's a natural thing that we want to, adjust to sound. So give the appearance that nobody's home, secure it, lock it, do everything you possibly can. Silence your cell phone. hopefully put your, hand over your mouth so that you don't, you're crying or whatever. You try to minimize that. It won't hopefully be too long, okay? Because we're coming. Statistically, they're over within, it could be, a couple of minutes. It could be 10 to 15, minutes. But even though that seems like a long time, in the scale of, being in a hidden place, hey, that's fine. You want to be there 10, 15, 20 minutes. Typically, when we are in a position like that, we start becoming, we start maybe panicking, thinking, where are they at? What's wrong? What's happening? What's happening? Hey, the longer it is, probably the better at that time. It's okay. Control, take your deep breaths, control your breathing, and then hope that, by the time we get there, then you'll be safe. So understand that hiding is a very important tool. It's not like the movies. It's not like the movies where Michael Myers and, these guys, they're going to find you every time no matter where you're at. That's not the case. The better you do at it, the harder it is, right? So let's keep that in mind. If you can't run away, you can't hide, or maybe you were hiding and then the person came in. Hiding under a table, under a desk. The moment you are compromised, the moment you are no longer, you're no longer, you're detected, here's not an opportunity. People lose the will. And this is where went back to the mindset. People will lose it. You'll lose it. Just completely just drop and lose the will to fight. Okay? Just like if I'm going down the line here, right? Are you going to lose the will, or are you going to grab on to that weapon or whatever? It's not an easy thing. It's not something that we advocate. We would almost never tell you to fight or to try to disarm somebody. Only to save your life or save somebody else's life. Okay? Of death or great bodily injury to you or somebody else. Yes, sir.
Also, are you giving an example of someone who coming in, bad guys coming in and happen to be like next to you, shooting at,
Mhm.
like that. But in reality, usually when they come, they would start shooting from the outside, right, before they get in.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm glad you bring that up. Thank you. I just used this example of what the body, how we respond to an event. Yes, thank you.
Now, my question to you is this: if in real life, if they would come, I don't know what happened in New Zealand, because I think the guy came through the parking and went through and start shooting. But in this case, for our mosque here, this mosque here, they can come in from the back, or they maybe can come in from that side or any other side. But how would you recommend us to do if someone were to come in and they're far away from us, having a gun? Would you recommend that somebody, or do you train for somebody to take, like charge the guy? Because if he's gonna come in, if he starts shooting, those people in front are gonna die.
Yeah.
So
So,
would you say, do you think it's better for somebody, or you train for somebody to charge the guy, so at least one or two guys get killed? Because if they start moving, the guy can't shoot
So-
everybody at the same time.
and that's a very obviously good question. Now, I would not suggest that if you're from a far distance to go and to take that type of action, okay? Because the likelihood of you being struck or hit or injured is going to be very high. Everybody needs to think about surviving, right? So I would suggest that in that case, you find whatever you need to do to protect and survive, because not having training in firearm and so forth, especially with the rifle, you're pretty much, you're in a disadvantage tremendously. However, even though I came in with the rifle and I had everybody here, it goes back to that, if I had with the gun, right? If I came in with the rifle, and even though I started, if everybody here in close, not having to respond, if it happened to be there and you all then, instead of dropping or trying to run away, you all took the aggressiveness. You took the fight to me. Does that make sense? So if you took it, you reversed that, that's what we're talking about in this case. Then you have that. Whether you're skilled, you're trained or not, you're training now the mindset. So even me with the rifle coming in here, with everybody in here, you guys could overcome me. Now, could somebody get hit? Could somebody get killed? Or maybe several? Yes, even though you're doing that. But the likelihood, how many more, right? You're gonna have a bunch of, people getting struck, getting hit, or you're gonna turn it back on us, turn it back on me. That's what we're talking about. So maybe one or two maybe get hit and maybe die, maybe not. Just because you're shot, that doesn't mean you're gonna die. So maybe you get struck, but then because everybody took the fight close here and turned it on us, that's how you overcome it. But if you were to all right now try to turn and run away, I have an opportunity for everybody. And then I could still even go and continue to charge in advance. But that requires you to think. That requires the mindset. That's tough. That's not easy. That's why I say that it has to be a constant reminder that that mindset's got to be there. All of a sudden, going back to my man here who I was going to slap, right? He sees this is happening. He's going to take action before it occurs. You see me coming, you're doing one of these. Hey, before you even ask questions or what, you're going to try to take the fight before. That's what I'm talking about. That mindset is not normal. It's not normal behavior, especially even for the ladies. But it's something that you have to be able to develop and work through your mind, because that's what you're going to need to survive. I'm not after, a shooter, an active shooter is not coming after your purse. Is not coming after your wallet or your car or your store, your money. That's not. They're coming after your life. So that's the difference. You can't just give it up, right? So therefore, you're going to have to do something. What else can you do? You got police coming. You got fire coming. You have a lot of stuff. We've done a lot of stuff, but this is now at the very extreme. This is the last resort. We have no choice. You're going to have to develop that mindset. Ladies, throwing even a stapler, a book at somebody, things of that nature. These guys are struggling. I don't care how big, how a strong person is. If you throw a stapler or a book at somebody's face, you're going to have the same reaction, right? As big or strong or whatever, you have a gun or not, you're going to have a reaction. You could help each other by taking that fight, but it's got to be here, okay? That's why we started off with that mindset, having that right, being aware. We do everything we can to try to prevent it, but at that point. Now, just keep this in mind. You're going to have police officers coming from this uniform, from work, looking in a suit and tie, with guns out. We're going to have with jeans, with the polo, green, tan, blue, everybody, rifles, handguns. The whole world's coming, just be mindful. Make sure you show your hands. It is extremely important. Why do you think for you guys it's important to show your hands as you're either coming out or when the police are coming in? Yeah, that you're not one of them, because we don't know. We have no idea. It's very difficult for us to be able to identify who. But this really helps. Don't make it hard. Don't be on the phone. Don't try that. Believe me, other people are calling 911 at that time. Don't be so, rushed for that. Somebody else will most likely. If you're in that immediate, put that away. It's more important at the time that you cooperate. You don't scream. You don't yell too much. You don't try to go for the officer's guns or try to hug them or try to grab onto them. Even if you're injured, just know that they're going to bypass you. That's not easy for us. That's not easy at all. But we're going to have to bypass you to get to them, because our priority is to go get that shooter. That's our priority. Whereas if you're hurt and we came down here, we would never bypass you and just go. We'd treat you. But if there's something happening that time, I'm sorry, for that moment, we're going to bypass. Now, as they keep coming, then we'll work with you. And then the fire department will work, and we work together so we can get you the resources quickly. But you got to know that for that moment, that's what's going to happen for that short time. So be aware of that, okay? Don't be afraid to ask for, ID or anything. If you're barricaded, you're locked, how do I know who you are, and so forth. We could show you ID, and so, just don't just take it for granted. So there's those things. So again, I hate to cut it because I know partner here is up next, but at this point, I would ask if there are any questions. I know you had several of them, so which is great. Yes, sir.
Can you cover up a little bit home invasion, like in the event it happened, because it's been happening quite a bit, in case the whole family in the house and there's a home invasion, what they're supposed to do, split apart everyone, this way the invader, he loses control if he had them all in one room, or versus everyone disappear as much as they can. Can you elaborate about home
Yeah, those are, the home invasion, those very tough because now this is at your home, right? So it's not like you have those opportunities. So if you could avoid it, even if you get out a window and leave, by escaping and leaving, not only are you going to be able to get some help, get police, call 911, but what you're doing to that bad person to coming in is that they know, hopefully, if they happen to know that you escaped, that somebody's out there and the cops are coming. So maybe now it's going to, basically, I'm going to end my, my assault or my robbery with you. Not 100%, but it can do that. So there's some positive to that. On the negative side is that, like anything, right? They're going after your property and so forth, so complying, you have better likelihood. That could also aggravate, it could assault. So I can't tell you it's 100%, it's a balance approach that by leaving and separating could do it. But ideally, yeah, you start spreading the numbers. But remember that if you have a good feeling that you're just going for your property, yeah, unfortunately, that's what we'll have to do is comply. Now, you're at your own home and you want to protect right from the get-go and fight and defend yourself, then you have that right too. Every situation is different. One person, there's 4 of you, 5 of you, and you choose you want to, you're going to risk that, right? You're by yourself, you have your wife, your kids, maybe you just want to make sure that you're going to go on the odds of they just want the property, they just want the money, and then they're going to leave. So I'm not sure if that answers a little bit of those.
But what if they wanted to tie you up? Will you allow them to tie you up rather than, try to defeat? Or what is, I know it's the last moment, this guy come in and hey, go down, we're gonna tie you up.
So you're gonna because it's the robbery and they want to be able to take your property, I'm going to tell you that by complying, you have your greater I'm going with the probabilities. But again, this is going to be a judgment call on you. This is going to be a judgment call on you. How many suspects are we talking? Is it just one? What kind of weapon? Is there an opportunity? You're going to roll that dice. You got to understand that by you taking that act, you can escalate. You can create now maybe something that would not have happened. So it's very difficult. You see what I mean? Because the active shooter versus the robber, that's different. The active shooter you already know what's happening. With the robber, it's difficult. You don't know. There is some of them that no matter where you do, no matter what you do, you comply. Like in your case, they still pull the trigger. Those still occur, but those are smaller percentage. It's a smaller percent. So we're going to go with the probability, the odds, and the likelihood is that if you comply, you have a better chance. Until they prove otherwise, then you have to fight for yourself, right? But I'd hate to tell you, no, you just go and fight and you're going to do this when perhaps you could have had a better outcome the other way. That's going to be it's a very difficult thing. It's a challenge for you because of that. But you have to consider how many of them, who you are by yourself, family members, the fact that you could essentially trigger something, and now you have to live with yourself knowing that you triggered perhaps an outcome. That by doing that, there's just more. There's a lot of. There's a lot more issues there, but again, think about it on the perspective of that. They're going in for that versus I'm going in for your life. They're tying you up. Maybe they're just tying you up because they're going for your money and everything else. So again, but how could we help with that? Prevention, right? Cameras, locking your doors, ensuring constantly being vigilant of those things, stuff that you do at home, you could do it here. It goes back to the same thing I'm talking about. That we can prevent ourselves from being that, but now if you have no choice, then yeah, that's going to be a different one. But you got to consider all those things. Don't just, this is what I'm going to do. You have to think about. There's three.
Those will escalate some, violent as well.
Yeah, one person, they're kind of off guard. You feel capable. So, good. Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to you here.
I'm very good with mic, so I'm going to go ahead and not use it. Plus, I'll be using my hands, so it's going to be kind of hard to do both. So I have a couple of these cases. We'll just kind of pass them throughout the room, and we'll open them as the time arrives.
You can do this. This is
Oh,
better.
it's okay.
This is much better.
Can you guys hear me, or? You can hear me? Okay, well, I'll just talk, because I'm really bad with mics. I'll talk a little bit.
Okay.
Just maybe share some throughout the room. I don't just need one for myself. All right. One to show you. Okay. So you guys just heard the run, hide, fight concept to active shooter and what we do in the moment.
thank you very much. Thank you, officer, and thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Before I bring Fred Simon here again, I just want to remind you that the best out of all, medication is prevention. And prevention is we keep our eyes open, and if we see something, we say something. So keep our eyes open, like the officer Oscar said, that every time, like once you guys keep your eyes open, then we're working all together. Then he has more people on his personnel. Not that we're in the business of snitching, or we're in the business of telling, or in the business of policing, or the business of the FBI, but we're in the business of protecting ourselves. We're working together. It's not us and them, it's all of us, protecting ourselves, protecting our country, protecting our homeland, okay? So keep your eyes open, and prevention is the key, please.
Okay. Thanks. Let's hear it for Bilal again for making it happen. So if you need to get in touch with me, if you'd like to grab one of my business cards, that's great. If not, and you see a need for me to either facilitate some training, or you want to ask about what the FBI offers to either schools or places of worship or your place of business, just you can get in touch with me through Bilal as well. He's now currently going through our FBI Citizens Academy, and we welcome him, and he's learning every week different things that we do in the FBI, from violent crime to cyber crime to spies and everything else. It's pretty cool. But I'm very pleased that you had us come here, and kudos to the leadership of the mosque for including us, for thinking of doing this. And yes, kudos to you, yes. And again, I'm very grateful to the sergeant and the captain for coming tonight and participating in this event. And if you want more training like it, just let us know, and we can facilitate it again. Thank you. So the FBI has a couple of different outreach programs, one of which you may want to look up on the internet is called InfraGuard. Just think of infrastructure guardian. It's just a program that the FBI has for infrastructure protection. And when we say infrastructure, we have a pretty liberal definition of infrastructure, meaning places of worship, schools, hospitals, not just gas, electric, and so on and so forth. So if you'd like to get some more training like this, you may want to just go and do a search on the internet of the term InfraGuard, like I said, infrastructure guardian, or you can come up and grab one of my cards, or you can ask Bilal at another time, and he'll direct you to the website through me. And you can join the program, which is free, and then once you join, you start getting emails that invite you to come to other programs. We have a class like Active Shooter like this. It's actually 4 hours long. It goes more into depth on every topic here, where everyone gets tourniquets, and everyone, not to get free tourniquets, but you get a tourniquet to learn how to use them, plus the other items that the captain brought tonight, as well as behavioral aspects, because we didn't have that much time to study behavioral indicators. So we have a class on that kind of thing about once a month somewhere in Southern California. We have classes on cybersecurity, classes on various topics. So if you want to get into any of those classes, the membership to the program is free. The classes, some of them are free, some of them are $10. When they're $10, you get either a free breakfast or a free lunch with it. So consider joining if you like. I like you to get training somewhere, if not from us, from the PD or from the fire department. But again, without going on and on, thanks again for having us, and have a safe trip home. Thank you.
Okay, we have Yara Dalati here. She has an announcement to make.
You say it.
She lost her ring. Yeah, tell.
The ring is silver, a flower ring that is dark blue and light purple. Thank you very much.
And she said that her mom is gonna kill her if she doesn't find it. So.
I didn't say she's gonna kill me. I said I'm gonna get in trouble.
Okay.
it look like a computer.
Inshallah, we're going to pray Isha. Who those who are ready, inshallah, we pray Isha now.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Stow Sakimu, inshallah. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Astaghfirullah.